Hello guys, 2017 Chevy Impala, and since it turned 5 years old, we will be doing service on it. So this video is dedicated to the coolant change. So the coolant reservoir is just over here, and to drain the coolant we will need to get under the vehicle and remove one shield to access the valve. Alright, so this is the right front tire of the vehicle, this is front of the vehicle, and we will go ahead and remove this shield, and behind we will find a drain valve. Okay, so I have removed a few 7mm screws from here, and this is not a shield, it's part of the fender liner. Okay, so now when this is loose, you don't need to remove entire fender liner, but now you can see there is a drain valve, and there is the place where you can put a hose, so you can use the hose to drain the coolant into the pan to avoid any major spills. So I will get that hose installed and we'll get the valve open to drain the coolant. Alright, so there is the hose installed and I'm collecting it in a, it's like 5-liter jug. There will be probably a little bit more, so I would need to have another jar just beside it to switch when it's full. But before we go and open that valve, we will actually open the reservoir cap, so there is no vacuum created when we open that valve. So now we should be good to open the valve from the radiator. Okay, so you just reach it and you don't even need any tools. Usually they can be quite stuck, so you would need to use the pliers, but this one is super loose, so now you can see the coolant start to flow. And usually you don't want to remove that valve all the way because it will start leaking out of the valve core. So as long as you get a flow, it's still dripping a little bit on the valve, I'm not sure if you can see, so you may want to have a catch tray underneath too. So now we'll just let it drain and we'll get to the thermostat replacement. Alright, so it's been a while, it's draining slowly. I have already got one jug of 4 liters of coolant, and now just trying to get a little bit more just to get better displacement ratio. So what I'm doing now, I'm just putting some air pressure inside the reservoir. You don't want to put anything more than 15 psi. So just to give it a little bit of boost for the fluid to come out. So I'll do a little bit of pushing with air, but in general looks like we are around 4-liter mark of coolant drained. So after we'll close the drain valve and we'll start filling it up. Alright, so this is the amount that we were able to get with the air, compressed air in the system. So not really much, not even sure if it was doing it. But next, before we fill it in, the coolant, we will replace the thermostat, and it's located just over here. So there will be, seems like there are two 10mm bolts. So we will get them removed, and obviously before we do that, we will need to remove this hose. And usually there is always a little bit more coolant behind the thermostat, so just make sure that you have a catch pan underneath. But to start, I guess we can probably start even with removing this wire here so it's out of the way, and after that we'll remove this hose clamp with the channel lock pliers. Okay, to remove this wire to the O2 sensor, first you need to push this white piece down and then press it on it and push entire plug down, and then to remove this part from from the bracket, so it just slides in. So you need to push this bracket out and then pull out your other side of the plug. So now we should be good to remove the hose. So the hose is out, and we will be using this new thermostat. It's Gates 34853, and it comes together with the housing. It's a little bit expensive. I think it's around $60, but it's complete unit. So as you can see, same thing there. So just two 10mm bolts. The reason why we replace thermostat is that coolant is supposed to be changed every 5 years, and the reason for that is that it becomes corrosive at that mark, and it starts to destroy your internal component like heater core, radiator, engine block, water pump. So we want to make sure that you have fresh coolant. And the thermostat, they usually last up to 8 years, so most likely that it will start failing soon. So just avoid draining coolant one more time. We'll just replace it at the same time, and it should make a positive impact on the car performance in general. So for the lower bolt, I'm using a 1/4-inch ratchet with the shallow socket and an extension. So that works good enough to get it out. Okay, so for the top bolt, use the same ratchet. So now we can wiggle it out, and as I said, there probably will be another dump of coolant from behind the thermostat. Just need to make sure that you capture it. Okay, now we can clean the surface where the seal goes against, and we can install new thermostat. Alright, so the thermostat is in place. I got 2 bolts started with hands. Right now, important when you get bolt tight, do it evenly, top bottom until you are at the point where you want to be. I'm not sure about specific torque. For this car, usually for 1/4-inch bolt you would be looking somewhere at around 8-10 foot-pounds, or around 100 inch-pounds. So we will get this tight, and as I said, just go evenly, a little bit on top, a little bit on bottom, so when you push it against the body, it compresses the seal the same way all the way around. Alright, so the thermostat is in place, so now we can just put back the hose and the clamp. And then we can start filling the coolant. Just one more thing before filling up the coolant: make sure that your wire is back for the O2 sensor. And now we will go underneath and see there's not much more coolant left. That catch train was just to catch whatever was coming out of the thermostat housing. So now we will plug, close the valve, remove the hose, reattach the fender underliner where we were accessing the valve, and we should be good to fill up the coolant finally. Alright, so when it comes to coolant, I always use the concentrate and mix it with the distilled water at 70-30, so 70% of coolant, 30% of water. The reason for that is that we are in Canada and temperatures can get below -40, so you want to be in that range of protection. And basically that's exactly what it says. So if you are at 30%, water and 70% coolant, you should be good to up to 64 degrees, minus 64 Celsius. Since we changing the coolant, there's still a little bit left in the system, so by the end everything is mixed. We will be somewhere at 40-60% range, what is probably ideal. You don't want to go higher than 70% of coolant, because then it becomes corrosive and not good for your car. So you want to stay in probably around 60-40 range. So that's why we use 30-70 for the fresh. By the time it's mixed with whatever is left, it will be 40-60. Okay, to fill in, this is the coolant system with reservoir actually, and you must not have this. Like, it's not a requirement to have this funnel. You still can work with the reservoir itself and just make sure that you fill it up constantly while you filling up the system. But if you have the funnel, it's way easier because you have that extra volume that you can use. Right, so I already put in 4 liters of coolant. That's approximately the same amount that we got out, and we can see that the reservoir is full now. There is nothing in the funnel. So next step will be to start the engine, let it warm up to the normal operating temperature so the thermostat can open. And at this point, the goal is first to make sure that there is no air in the system. And second one, make sure that the thermostat opens, because sometimes when the air gets behind it, the engine is overheating and thermostat is not opening. So then we need to make sure that we get all the air out of the system and the thermostat is functioning properly. So at this point I will just start the engine as it is, and if the fluid goes down, we'll need to top it up. But right now, start the engine, let it warm up to 90 degrees and check for the thermostat to open. In the meantime, we can work with the radiator hoses, like this one that we took out, and we just squeeze it, and you can probably hear how the bubbles are coming out. And here's the supply hose, same thing, just to help that air to escape. But yeah, right now just let's get the engine started. Alright, so this vehicle has been running probably for half hour already, and you can see that engine temperature is around 90 degrees where it's supposed to be. And I already checked, but basically you just want to make sure that this hose coming out of thermostat is hot, not warm but hot. So it is hot. It means that the thermostat open, there is probably no more air in the system. And if we check the reservoir, alright, so we can see that the reservoir is full and it's hot and it's just at the mark. So it took exactly 4 liters of coolant, and at this point we can shut it down and reinstall the cap, and that's it. Do it yourself, guys.